Hello, a very good morning to you all, wherever you are. Welcome to Sunrise Daily today. I'm Chamberlain Uso.
Good morning and welcome. I'm Kayla Magwa.
And from here in Lagos, good morning and welcome to the program. I'm Ayo Makinde.
Okay, so have a look at this. I mean, you might have been here before. Just in case you don't know, this is where they refer to as the center of Nigeria. So it turns out that, I've seen people who've been there, gone picnic there. Yes, people gone picnic here too. And they didn't know. So that's why many think, look, government should be able to at least take this a little further. So at that particular spot, put a flag or something, a flag of Nigeria, such that for all of you hikers, when you go from the base of the Katankwe Hill, by the way, that's what it's called, then get to the top, you could see that, because there's always this excitement, this build-up when you want to say, oh, really? I was at the center of Nigeria. You know, that psychological fulfillment, which it can't give you when you do go there. So that right there is that spot. So, well, a little disappointing that that's just all there is to it. But, yeah, much as it is what it is, I like to be optimistic and hope that it'll get better.
I mean, it does look like a flag was painted there. It feels like green, white, green was painted, but it's washed off.
No, not a
It does look like there's some green on the side, there's some white there, and some green. But you know, you're absolutely correct. More needs to be done. This is the middle of Nigeria, and I am among those few people who have been here, and I was shocked. I was shocked at how bare it was. I was shocked at how much, you know, it just felt like a small black square box in the middle. And they tell, oh, that's the middle of Nigeria. And for many people who've gone to Katankwe Hill, you've probably been here. If you pass the radio station and you climb, because, you know, there are 2 steps to that hill. So when you climb the first step, you get to the radio station where you park your cars. But for those people with cars like Chamberlain, they can drive up the hill, but it's really steep. My car can't do it. But there are people who climb all the way up with their cars. I had to park by the radio station and then, you know, take a walk up that very steep
I don't drive on the hill when I go hiking.
Well, no, some people do meetings at that place. That's the point. You know, at the place where the center of Nigeria, there's a gazebo where people, I think you can see that gazebo, that there are people do meetings there. I remember Patutomi and a few other people used to have meetings at that place. In fact, it was a meeting that after the meeting, they would do a prayer session. And it was right there. And they said it was symbolic because that place was the middle of Nigeria. But it is. And if you've never been there, go to Katankwe Hill. Tell the security what you're there to do, and they might even help you get up there.
So
but
here's
that is the middle.
Why don't you just send us an image if you've been there? Did you look forward to it? Were you excited about it when you got there? Did you take any picture? Did you touch the place and say, hey, tag me, this is center of Nigeria? Well, I see that. Well, I'd like to see it and see if we could just, you know, there has to be something exciting about wherever you are in this part of the world, really. So maybe that might help Ayo next time out is in Abuja. He might also want to go there and say, okay, where is this much talked about center of
Ayo, when you come, are we taking you there, Ayo?
Well, I'll think about it. Well, only if my representative in the House of Representatives. Can you guys hear me now?
Oh, I think maybe he's trying to check the place out before he comes back and joins us.
I feel very bad because whenever Ayo comes into this Abuja, we try to take him somewhere, you know. But I didn't think about it. We keep taking him to places where he'll give us. You'll buy us things.
I hope you guys can hear me now because...
I'm sorry. Next time, I promise I'm taking you to this place.
So you did take me somewhere.
Yes, just we take his money. Every time
you did take me somewhere, Kayla. I hope you remember.
We should show you some of our city. I'm sorry, I'm so
the weather is still pretty lovely today. It's 23 degrees centigrade and probably might get to 27 much later today. Expected to be the highest. So still should be a pretty good one. But when you can, hey, I think it'll be lovely to just send us order there. Okay, so while we see if we could get anyone excited about going to some of these places, I don't think you need any security to get you there.
You do.
It's safe.
Security will take you. The place is secure.
No, You don't need to be protected to drive to the venue.
No,
it's safe to drive there. So, because there are some locations where we've shown and people think, but how do I get to some of these locations in Kaduna, for instance? Yeah, okay.
Yeah, maybe
you may have a point or two, but for this one,
it's safe.
I don't think that you should worry
this one
about
is safe. You can
anything.
do it.
So, while like that, let's take you through some of the dailies this morning. Ayo, well, you can take us through that one now.
If you have a phone line not yet connected to a national identity number NIN, well, this news may interest you. The Guardian newspaper, NIN, SIM linkage and national security. Fresh anxiety as FG disconnects 50 million unlinked SIMs September 14. All of the information you need is right there on page 6 of the Guardian newspaper this morning. Well, the Guardian is not the only one talking about it. New Telegraph has digital security. NCC insists on September 14 deadline for NIN SIM linkage. That story you find details of on page 4 of the paper this morning. Other news, look at the front page of Business Day. ASUU Danjuma acquired Notori Chemical for $150 million. On the front page, and it continues on the inside pages. Blueprint newspaper. FG recovers 83 billion naira as Tinubu said to represent whistleblowing policy. And look at the rider. Policy will safeguard nation's resources, not witch hunt anybody. That's according to Edom. Details you find on the inside pages of the paper. This Nigeria newspaper. FG moves to stop ASUU strike. Both parties agreed to meet September 6. Alleged terrorism financing. Labour plans showdown with police if Ajero is detained. The details of that story you'll find on page 4 of the paper this morning. The controversy around the age limit for WASC is on the front page of the Vanguard newspaper. NAS wades into age controversy. It's a cake, according to Atiku, says FG acting like military regime. FG's declaration unacceptable, draconian, according to CSOs. It'll lead to capital flight, says the dean. We'll subject it to public hearing, according to Senate. We haven't been briefed on the matter. That's coming from Reps. Story has its details on page 5. The Daily Times newspaper, Bode George to Atiku, you can't be president in 2027. Says PDP will field a Southerner as presidential candidate in 2027. Talking about 2027, insensitive, Atiku spokesperson replies, Bode George. Details of that story you'll find on page 2 of the paper this morning. That same story is on the front page of the Daily Independent. Presidency. If you must contest, wait till 2031, Bode George tells Atiku. Says the Southerner must occupy the position till 2031. You can't talk of 2027. 2023 has no benefit yet. That's coming from Atiku's aide. Details of that story on the inside pages of the paper. Nigerian News Direct has strike. FG ASUU meeting inconclusive, adjourned till September 6. Details on page 6 of the paper. The Nigerian Tribune has Nigerians perplexed under Tinubu's government, according to Afenifere. Laments crippling hunger, runaway inflation, unremitting insecurity, false profligate waste of resources. Raise alarm over harassment of media. Retrace call for implementation of Orosanye report. That story has details on page 4 of the paper this morning. Look at the front page of Daily Trust and not too good news. Flooding kills over 170 in 15 states. 107,652 hectares of farmlands, 80,049 houses destroyed. Oh dear. NEMA warns of severe incidents in September and October. Tinubu urges speedy action on environmental concerns. That story has its details on page 4 of the paper this morning. If you look on the front page of the Leadership newspaper, this is what you have. Internship policy. NYSC rejects HND graduates at orientation camps. What does that mean? Demands industrial training certificate. Potential core members stranded as officials hold hearing. That story is on page 4 of the Leadership newspaper this morning. And these are some of the papers we have for you today.
Welcome back to Sunrise Today. Yes, Professor Emmanuel Osodeke joins us now. He is the president of ASUU. Good morning, Prof. Thank you for coming.
Good morning, and thank you very much.
Yeah, so that meeting held yesterday with the officials of government. So, yes, we know that it will continue on September 6th, thereabouts. So, what is the current situation now?
Well, the situation now is the way it was. What we did yesterday is, we gave them a notice, 21 days notice, and the issue they already know, the issue of our negotiation of the agreement of 2009, the issue of our in allowance, the issue of revitalization fund, our 3.5 month salary, and others. So they already know. So what we made yesterday was to brief us what they have done, and they told us their plan. So we looked at it, set a committee to a member to join some of those issues, and so that's where we are. So we are waiting.
So does this effectively put that 21-day ultimatum notice on hold?
Definitely not.
Uh-oh.
No.
The process is in place.
Yes, that's why we say we are meeting on the 6th. If on the 6th, whatever they give to us on the 6th that they have done, we will call our members, and then they will look at it. If they are satisfied, but if they are not satisfied, we'll go ahead with it.
What are some of the things that you're hoping will be done by the 6th?
We would have expected, we already have a negotiation committee, that we already have an agreement between we and the Nimi Breeze Ledge Committee. What we're waiting for them is to bring that document for signing, which they didn't. So what we expect this team to do is that they should quickly set up their own negotiation team. If there are issues on it, they should come back to us, we'll look at it. One day we'll look at it, and if they say we should sign, then we'll sign. And that is gone.
I want to be able to get your thoughts on the proliferation of universities. That's one of the things on
That's one of the issues, yes.
So what does that mean? What's going on there?
As we speak, so, for information we have, at the National Assembly, they are up to, bill to establish up to 70 universities, new universities. As we speak, so, go and check. In the past 5 years, the past 10 years, we have established not less than 30 new universities. And our own idea is that if you cannot fund the one you have already, UI and what have you, why are you going to start so many others? Why? There's no reason you can't fund the one you have. For a little bit of example, the running cost for Unilag, UI, University of Ife, OAU Ife, ABU and Suka, is about 15 million naira a month. It's what you give them to run that universities. And you want to start a new one. And I idea why? There's no reason. Because we not call the constituency project. When you are living as a legislator, you say, I started university, I established university in my constituency. That's not the idea of a university. In the old days, when University of Suka, Ibadan, all these universities were established, the government will put a team in place to look at, one, where do we site it? Two, how do we fund it? Three, where are we going to get the staff who will lecture in those universities? As we speak so, our lecturers are living in droves. Many are dying. And I'm just saying it. So who will lecture in this university you are establishing?
Isn't ASUU overreaching itself if you make that as part of your demand? Because government can say, look, that is our business. Ours is to make sure you get your allowances. If you're getting your allowances, why are you going to be bothered about?
Our own idea as a union of academics, it was shared Nigeria have a standard. So this produce students who have quality, not quantity.
Yeah, but you can advise government and not compel government.
Well, this country belongs to all of us. This country, and we speak for the academics, and it belongs to all of us. If you cannot produce university where lecturers who are lecturing are not qualified, university don't have structure, don't have anything, and the quality goes out and time is behaving, they will say ASUU. They will not be saying the government that Nigerian university with ASUU are producing low quality degrees.
Yeah, but what about those who say, look, you're trying to twist the government? Because other people say, look, the way to go about it is lobby the government, advise them, say, no, look, if you go this route, this is what you may likely get. But ours, if you don't get us our end allowances, then we'll have a grouse.
Let me tell you what we have done. We have met with them. We agree we will propose a bill to the National Assembly on this issue. We initiated a bill to say, good, if you want to establish this type of university, let's start with you. So that when you establish your community, bring your children to attend that university. You don't just produce things. You see, we as we believe in quality, not quantity. But we have a country who believes in quantity and not quality. And today, the impact, we're all feeling it. There's no week a building don't collapse in Nigeria.
So, Prof, if government pays the allowances
Yes.
to ASUU
Yes.
and insists we will set up our universities, will ASUU still go on strike?
If it gets to that level, yes. You see, look, at the end, it's we. Look, a university is universal, not a village. But we have turned our university to villages. There's no university you go in the world outside Nigeria that you don't see a foreigner, a Nigerian teaching in those universities. But come to Nigeria, you will hardly see one foreigner teaching in any university. We are removing our university from the global perspective to a local perspective. Go to Benin, go to Niger, go to Ghana. Nigerians are teaching, foreigners are teaching. When you enter Nigerian university, you can never see any foreigner coming to teach here. Something is wrong. But in the 60s, 70s, and 80s, in my department at university I attended, there were lecturers from 5 different countries teaching in one department.
I want to be able to talk about your allowances, what you're being owed.
Look,
Give us an outline of what the government is owing ASUU.
One, in academic allowance. And the idea of in academic allowance is this. When we reach an agreement, the ratio of academics, a lecturer to a student, as enshrined by the government through NUC, the maximum is 1 lecturer to 5 students. But today, you have 1 lecturer to 50 students. We mean you are across the line. For doing this extra work, we say pay us, and we all agree, signed. They are owing up to 7 years on paid allowance. We agree in 2021 that it should be mainstreamed. Instead of talking about earning allowance, let me be part of the monthly salary. We all agree, signed. Government never implemented. That is 1. 2, we were on strike. They said they will no work, no pay. And we say, fine. What is no work, no pay? Academic staff work is not about daily work. It's about what you do. But when we came back from that strike, we had 2 options. Option 1 is, okay, allow the past to go. Let's start from a new session, 2023, 2024. But when we look at that, we find if we do that, it would be negative to these students, young men and women. We say, okay, let's go back and start where we stopped. And we have pulled that up now. Every university now is in 2023, 2024. Every university, because, and how do we do that? In the old good old days, a professor, a lecturer, every year you have up to 3 months leave. They call it vacation, they're not even leave. That they have money, they could travel all over, go and enjoy themselves, they go and also build up your research. But in the past 10 years, because of strike, no lecturer goes on leave. We spend those periods now to do the past work that we didn't do while we were on strike. And now that we have done, we say pay.
So government has not fulfilled any part of that 7 years?
The pay of the 7 years of which one?
Of the one you said they're owing now? 7 years.
Yeah.
Yes.
No, they only pay little. But they are still owing 7 years. It would differ from 2013, I'm sorry.
But what is ASUU's expectation? Because the government says clearly we can't pay 7 years in one fell swoop. Yeah. Maybe they will say we might likely phase it. So if this committee comes up, what do you expect?
Our member also generously gave them a way. We say pay 2 tranches of 25 billion. Pay 2 tranches.
How much is the money altogether?
Billion.
Yes. For Nigerian universities.
Wait, how much is the money?
The money we have there, is up to 80 billion.
80 billion?
Yes. All Nigerian universities, by the time I go to each lecturer, nobody gets more than maybe maximum of 100, 200, 300,000. So, but we now say, for our generosity, just pay 2 and let the rest go. But let's sign a new agreement and move on from there.
Some Nigerians are not very sympathetic with ASUU because they say you're punishing Nigerian children. First of all, they're dealing with a level of education that doesn't put them on the same level as their counterparts across the world. And then at the same time, you keep going on strike for one thing or the other.
Let me assure you, if not for ASUU struggle, Nigerians should know. If not for ASUU struggle, there will not be public universities in Nigeria today. If not for ASUU struggle, this is our strike, so-called strike. If not, there will not be. Just like primary school and secondary school are gone. You are aware. They have been taken over by private sectors. Hope you are aware. If not for ASUU struggle, today we have about 90-something public universities, state and federal. We have more than 100 public. This same 90-something, about 96 federal state universities still have more than 90% of Nigerian students. These more than 100 private universities have less than 10% of Nigerian students. because of our struggle. Go to any university, any new building, any new structure you see is state fund. That's our struggle. It's need assessment is our struggle. So when I'm saying this, do you want to go to the way the primary and secondary school? Is that what Nigeria want us to do? The answer is no. So our struggle is so we have still kept Nigerian university going. Any day we let down this struggle. Virtually every senior Nigerian today have a started a university. And look at what they have done with the private secondary and primary school. They have reduced the years you spend in school, what you study. You cannot spend 3 years in primary school. You cannot spend 4 years in secondary school. When the law is very clear, you must spend 6 years in primary school, 6 years in secondary school.
Okay, I think ASUU
just to make money.
I think we read that ASUU was not supporting that. ASUU, were you supporting the government concerning, because I mean the headline was, why are you rushing your children? Yes. Which was ascribed to ASUU. Yes. Even though parents say, look, if a child is smart and brilliant enough, let them go. It's
do you mean every child, all Nigerian children are very smart? Are you saying that all Nigerian children are very smart, they must do 3 years or 4 years? Are we saying so? Let me tell you the adverse effect. It's very clear. You see, we don't look at the issues. Today, when we were running normal university, public secondary parents were running the system. When the children take JAM, the minimum cutoff point is either 200 or minimum 180. Because children were passing through the system. And when they go to do this general exam, that is a general round, they score well. More than 80% will score above 180 and you are admitted. If you score beyond 180, you can't be admitted. Now we have reduced it to you must cash and carry. You spend 3 years, you are graduated. Have you seen the result of JAM? University are now downloaded themselves, they now take 140, which is a failure. 140 over 400 is 35%, which is failed. Because of this thing we are doing that Nigeria is clapping for. You know, in the private school, you can pass anything. In WAEC, they are written in private school. The only exam that you do generally is JAM, and you can see the result.
I mean, I think...
And that is the bad effect of we condoning what we know is not correct.
ASUU's statement came in the wake of the Minister of Education stating that you had to be 18 years old to write WAEC, to WASC and JAM. That was where ASUU made that statement, say, why are you rushing your children? Talk to us a bit about ASUU's stand on that statement by the minister.
We, as a union, we have not discussed it. And when we discuss, we'll give the union stand. But my own stand as a person, as a lecturer, as a professor, is that children will be allowed to pass through the system as indicated by the regulator. And by the system is that you must be 6 years before you enter primary school.
Okay.
You must spend 6 years in primary school. Secondary school, the junior level 3, upper level 3, which is 6. If you add 6 times 3 is 18. But because we are now, parents don't want, they're not even interested on the psychology of the child. You take a child who is 13 years old and he gets admission to a university. Today, less than 10% of students in university still have access to hostels. So a child of 13 years will not go and rent accommodation in the public, who is a junior, who is not even an adult. The effect that you are now having people who are now very coming to the system can be with psychological problem.
What kind of psychological problem?
Will you allow your child of 12 years, 13 years to live on her own in a rented place, in a village, where you have court members around? Will you allow that? So what are we saying? Why the rush? Why not allow the system to go?
Does the system make adjustments for child geniuses?
Even when we're in school.
Does the system make this rule? Does it give that concession for them?
When you are a very brilliant student and you are done well, university have a right to make you jump 1 year if you are very, very brilliant. But here today is everybody. Whether you are a dullard, you are a brilliant, you must spend this one, you must spend this one. Students now write primary school living certificate at primary 4. And what have you? The only exam that you can use to judge them today, generally, is JAM. And like I told you, that university are now 35% to admit students into school.
But Prof, it is not all parents that are pushing their children like this. So there has been no statistics to show the percentage of people. It might be even negligible. So at least, because likely vast majority of parents are still saying, listen, you go through the whole thing. And we had someone writing saying, no, my child will go through the normal system. So how do we know the percentage?
Let me tell you, all those passed through public schools, primary and secondary, who still have their children in public primary and secondary school, they pass through the system. 6 years. This thing you are seeing are in the public, private schools. And you can check. It's a private, because for them, the earlier you graduate, the more students you admit, the more money you make. And for the parents who are very selfish, instead of paying school fees for 6 years, I pay for 3 years, you apply for school.
So it's not that ASUU is angry with private schools.
Eh?
It's not that ASUU is somewhat angry with private schools.
We are telling government to ensure that regulations are kept, whether you are in public or in private.
All right, so before we go, what about the payment system, UTAS? Is there still an issue with that one?
There's still an issue. And that, to me, that is the one that is, we are so surprised that in December, Federal Executive Council, chaired by the President, issued a directive to the Accountant General of the Federation, exit tertiary institution from IPPIS. We met, the Minister of Education, summoned a meeting in January. We met and agreed on the guideline of how to go. And we are in August. The Accountant General refused to obey that directive. The government also in July issued a statement again. Say, Secretary of the Government, please ensure that this thing happen immediately. We are in August, ending August. The Accountant General refused to implement that decision. That shows you that where we are. In a normal country, that Accountant General should not be there in office. That a President, Federal Executive Council, the higher decision would make a decision and the Accountant General would refuse to implement.
Why do you think that was so?
They don't tell the Nigerian public. Till now, we are still being paid what they call it a new IPPIS, whatever they call it. So if they are given that rating in January, and this is how they instigate strike, exit them. And I speak to you so, they are deducting our money, they will not refund. Our members, our contribution, pension, even pension contribution, for 4 months, they have not returned. They have not returned to our pension, ROSA. Our members' cooperative contribution, when they contribute to help them when they need money, they are holding it, they have not remitted. Third-party deduction, they have not. Because of this IPPIS.
Is ASUU opposed to transparency and proper corporate governance and accountability by University Senate? Because that's the impression that the authorities are giving.
No, you see, when people want to create something, they look for excuses. Before we enter IPPIS, you are aware now, even they have announced it, that many people are now abroad all over the country earning salary for IPPIS. They have said, the government said it. So many who are left with the job, because when you are working, you don't know how you are paid. So you leave, they don't know you are being paid. You have retired, you have left. They thought you have resigned and left. You are still being paid in Nigeria. So we as a union, our own idea is very clear, as it was in 16, 17, and 18. University A will come to National Assembly with its budget. The National Assembly will scrutinize it and approve a budget for that university. That money is released to the university either on monthly basis or on quarterly basis. At the end of the year, when you come for the next budget, you must explain to the National Assembly how you spend the last money before you get the new one. That is the procedure. Not this one today. You don't know how much, if I say you don't know how much you paid, don't know who staff are.
But has ASUU been holding University Senate accountable? Because government says that has not been happening as much as they want.
University Senate does not run, University Senate run academics. University Senate don't talk about.
Who implements the funds that they give to the schools? It's the
governing council. And that's what we've been fighting for government. You remember, we have to go on strike to get government to put in place a governing council.
Because that was just constituted not too long ago.
Yeah, but it took 1 year before the government constituted a council.
Who was administering the funds in that absence?
That is the question. That's why we said set up a visitor panel to probe those, the VCs, the universities, the councils. That's why we also went on strike to get the government to set up a visitor panel to look at those who have mismanaged funds, and you try them. Those are the things we went on strike to get a council in place. We went on strike to get government to set up a visitor panel, which is a regular thing in the government law.
Okay. All right. So you told us if you don't get that the feeling that the right things are being done by September 6, your ultimatum still stands. and you may likely go on strike.
My appeal to the government and to Nigerian people, please, the issues are no serious thing. They don't tell you there is no fund. You have no fund, you can do a road from Lagos to Calabar for 30 trillion. And what we are asking for the Nigerian universities over 6 years is 1.3 trillion. I say there's no money. Please, let's put education first. Let's bring our university to one of the best in world so that I can get to them who will pay us in dollar all over the world. Like you have 70,000 Nigerian students in Canada. If they come home and Canada come here, we will resolve all these problems. So in the interest, we want to appeal to the president. We knew his view when we were on strike. So please, let's resolve this issue in the interest of Nigerian people, and there will be seamless, there will not be strike or anything. We don't like strike, we suffer. That's our appeal. All
right, Professor Emmanuel Osodeke, President of ASUU, thank you for coming on this morning.
Thank you very much.
All right, Sarah Zile will be back in just a moment. Stay on with us. And get some live images coming through from Labour. Well, remember, they ordered the members to go on a procession today following the invites of their president, Joe Ajero, by the police. So have a look.
You said you are looking for time. You have been living in Nigeria for many years. How did you enter the country? What was our immigration doing? What was the police doing? What was the security agent doing? And again, this is the software we are looking for. You are not disclosed on your own. This is the linkage between comrades and attempt accountable. I will never surrender to that. Yes, sir! All of us believe in comrades.
Those are live pictures coming through from Nigeria Labour Congress. They're mobilizing their members, and so they're speaking to journalists about what they intend to do today. And of course, the invitation by the police to the president of Nigeria Labour Congress. So let's see if we can get more from them.
What is the problem? The point of Nigeria is giving the labor movement who continue to engage government meaningfully. So, our belief is that whatever happens to Nigeria happens to labor leaders and workers in Nigeria. Yes. We must be resolute. Yes. We must defend the integrity of the Congress. Don't believe what happens to Nigeria does not happen to you. If they succeed with Nigeria, Amali is not safe. Other labor leaders are not safe. At every point in time, capitalists are looking for ways of silencing labor leaders and labor movement. I'm a victim of that in my state. So all of us must understand. Politicians will look for a way to look for franchises in order to calm labor leaders. We should be happy. And we have a labor leader who has a clear goal, vision, and mindset, and we believe in it. So all of us must to that place and see what happens. Let them confront us with the allegations and prove it beyond reasonable doubt. Then we will know what to do. If anything happens to Comrade Joe Ajero, Africa, Congress, you had it. That is our national treasure. The Vice President said he didn't tell us where the money is. We are seeing we never come. I have 3 vice presidents here. One and us. But in case they will give a rural injection, not stay here and give the counter injection. We have another vice president. If they got a water corporation, in case they don't allow Ajero to drink water, he will help flood the place with water. We have another vice president who is in charge of carrying files. I never asked her whether Ajero file don't fall from this side. And daily is when we file carry. I will give the man in charge of water corporation, all corporations of the Comrade Benjamin Anthony. Yes, Isoleto, Aluta, well, comrades, good morning. We want to welcome all of us to NFA. Today, we are gathered here as a movement to defend the movement. Today, we discovered that in Nigeria, politicians are too. If you remember, in October last year, this government promised to pay wage allowance until offense number 1. They promised or any strange facility. And this movement.
Well, those are live pictures coming through to you from Labour today, because it's 11 days after the police invited the president of Nigeria Labour Congress to come answer questions concerning allegations of criminal conspiracy, terrorism financing, treasonable felony, suspension, subversion, I beg your pardon, and cybercrime. So exactly 11 days after that invitation by the Intelligence Response Team, the IRT, that's the arm of the Nigeria Police. So he is expected to appear at the police headquarters today in Abuja. So Labour up in arms about all of those. But just to put this out there, I know that Labour did say in one of those narratives there that the police should come up with their prove it to them beyond reasonable doubt, and then they will know what to do. But as we know in this country, as the law requires, is that, look, Labour is not the courts. You prove cases beyond reasonable doubt at the courts. So Labour should not set the message that they're trying to take the laws into their hands. But there are several questions of Labour and the police on this matter, which we can't get through as of yet, because many wonder, this procession, is Labour suspecting that the NSU president is going to be detained beyond or held beyond today? Because
these I don't know what they have to call them, protests. They're calling all the affiliates across the country. What? I don't know what it is, but they are going to be at every single police command. That's
putting pressure.
Yes, at every single police command in the country. And they're saying prayers are involved in this as well.
Prayers?
Yes, they're going to be asking people to pray.
But people can pray from home in their house.
But you see, the thing is, this whole situation with Labour, it's brought up two conversations, hasn't it? The fear. Look at the fear when you're being asked to come and explain a situation. He's not under arrest. It's also a sign of a lack of trust that Nigerians, and it's showing in this Labour union, the lack of trust that they have in the police force. The idea that they think that their comrade, the president of the NLC, will not be allowed to go. No, stay, they're saying to all their members, stay at every single police command, and we will be at the one where he's called to until he's removed, until he comes out of the gate and we know that he's safe.
So here's the thing. If the police invites someone, they have a right to do that, by the way. But if they invite you and then people are protesting, saying no, the questions are you protesting because you don't want them to invite him, or what exactly? Because has any offense been committed? What is the essence of the protest? If you don't trust the police, that's one thing. But you can't protest because of what? Lack of trust. If he goes in there and is held beyond the stipulated time as required by law, then you can have a legal reason, or at least some reason to say, look, you're violating the laws. You can raise issues. But if they're doing this, people will ask questions. Probably Labour does know something that people don't about this invitation.
And of course, the question that comes up is the Labour leader above the law? Why can't he be called in for questioning? A lot of people are called in for questioning to explain one thing or the other.
So there's several questions, because 11 days, the police, I think they waited. They didn't storm anywhere to forcefully arrest him. He gave excuses. I said, okay, take your time.
Take your time.
Then he's back in, and then this. So really, there are so many questions. People ask, look, is the police going to, look at all those allegations leveled against him. And don't forget, this is coming on the back of the protest and governance protest. So people will think, is government trying to, witch hunt certain people? Can government or police go against Labour or go or invite him if they've got no reason whatsoever to do so?
No, we do know about the raid that happened at the NLC Secretariat.
Labour frowned against that.
Labour frowned against it, but from what we hear from the police afterwards is that there's some international, there's an international dimension to terrorist sponsoring and money laundering and all whatnot, and all of that culminated in that raid that was done of that individual. And these international dimensions to the situations that we're facing security-wise in our country is, for the police force, is a very important thing that they have to focus on. They have to stay on that. And if you are in any way affiliated with any of the investigations that they're doing, they're going to call you in for questioning. That's how the police sees it. But, from the side of Labour, I choose to look at it from a lack of trust in the system. And of course, but their actions are making people wonder if there's more to it.
Of course there is more.
Do you know something that the rest of us don't know about?
There's absolutely a lot more, because
it's a very dicey situation.
There are several people who don't trust the system, but they don't have a union, a group probably as strong as Labour to want to hold anyone to ransom, because that's the impression they may get. We could be wrong on that one. But what we also do know is that the NSA did brief the Council of State in terms of, and by the way, there are several seizures, accounts frozen, several things happening, and many asking questions. So government can be this effective. You can know and freeze these accounts as quick, but we still have terrorism. People are being kidnapped.
Yes.
NMA, NRD is going on strike. You haven't found those who were kidnapped, but you could easily find or trace this funding for protests if it's for terrorism, but you're not doing the same thing for bandits and terrorists who are all over in different parts of the country. Questions to government on that one. So they ask, what's good for the goose is good for the gander.
And the audacity even of a lot of these bandits and terrorists. There are videos online between day before yesterday and today of bandits displaying their cash.
So those are the issues.
Sending messages. So the thing is, if you can be this effective,
then do it across board.
Do it across board.
That's why they raise the question of trust. Not that they know you can trust or distrust anyone. Yeah, people can do that when they want, but laws are laws. Laws are not about emotions. That's pretty straightforward. So if, because Nigerians also like to see them being transparent, because it's public funds, so they want to see you being accountable to the police, to the public. So if they don't see that, then they raise questions. Of course, you have people who will be sympathetic to Labour, saying, well, yeah, we don't trust government. Government has something up in
and the personality of the president of the Nigeria Labour Congress is also one of the conversations this has brought up, what he represents as a Labour leader. And that's something that, yes, you can be sympathetic towards, but even as a Labour leader, you're not above the law. And we're seeing even civil society say, look, we're being called in all the time. We're being called to defend one thing or the other. You make an accusation, you're called to defend it. If an investigation has led to you being called in, just go do it, And we're seeing him doing it today. But this, the actions that we're seeing from, the Nigeria Labour Congress and all these memos that they've sent across the country is making people wonder what's really going on. It's creating more doubt. It may just be a lack of faith in the system. You think he's going to be kept there longer than he's supposed to, or you believe some kind of chicanery is going on. But it could also point to the fact that there's more to this than the rest of us know. So the handling of this situation is one that has to be very carefully done, especially by the Nigeria Labour Congress.
Well, there's still more images through, if you can see them. They're still gathered there, just waiting, milling around to see what is going to happen next. What do they expect? So lots of uncertainty. But don't forget, there are police vehicles also present at the Labour House. And so many are just, lots of people asking questions. What's going on? What's happening here and there? So Everyone just hoping that, look, it doesn't spiral out of control. But from what we have heard, Labour say this morning, where they say if the police have proof presented beyond reasonable doubt, look, that could be interpreted in different ways. They could then say, okay, if that is the thinking, if that's what they want, if he does come to the police station and if he honors that invitation, in a bid to prove anything beyond reasonable doubt, we go to the courts. They could decide to charge him to court. So if they take him to court based on those allegations and the law begins to take its course, can Labour then say what? We don't want that to happen? Isn't that going to be Labour trying to take laws into their hands? The people will also raise questions about all of that. So there's so many moving parts and so many things not too clear from what we have seen and heard. So until probably Labour is asked all of those questions so people can understand the mindset. In fairness to the police, yes, Mr. Adejobi did talk not long ago about this matter, but it's about consistency of your attempt to be transparent. Nigerians like to see you. If this matter is going on, talk to Nigerians. What exactly is going on? If it's on a state-by-state basis, fine. So people can know this is what government is doing. Then they can question it and see, no, we don't think this is right. We're not asking them to disclose whatever, key secrets or findings they've got because it's up to them and their measures. But how they handle all of these matters moving forward, I tell you, is going to be very, very interesting.
Well, we'll be watching to see how all of this unfolds. In fact, here on Channels TV, we do have quite a number of reporters who are going to all of the all the places where these congregations are being done across the country, just so we can get a feel of what's going on. And of course, everyone's eye is in Guzape. Everyone is looking at the office here in Guzape to see, how long Joe Ajaero, when he walks in, when he walks in there, how long he's going to be there. Is he going to talk to the press afterwards? Is the police going to talk to the media afterwards? Are we going to hear what this interrogation was about? Is he going to be open about it when he gets out? Well, I would hope he is. I would hope that Mr. Joe Ajaero, who's never shy of speaking to the media, once he comes out, oh, look at what they asked me. Look at what they said to me. This is what happened. This is what happened. And then, of course, the bigger question, which is why all of these Labour people are everywhere right now, is he going to be kept longer than he's supposed to?
Well, here's the thing. As we've seen in this country, so you can predict some things that will happen.
Yes.
Today, for instance, when the ASUU President will be honoring that invitation to the police, you can bet he will have several people that will accompany him.
Oh, yes.
You will have lawyers, you have different groups of people, civil society, many people will accompany him. They always do that psychologically to also feel as if, look, yes, we know the police can invite people, but we're not going to be intimidated about all of this. So we've got backing. In case you want to intimidate us, we also have a base, so you know that perhaps there's a balance of whatever it is, but that may likely happen. So, yes, you did say that they mobilized their members in different state councils for a procession and solidarity march.
Yes.
So
that's
again,
the word. Solidarity
nothing legally
march.
wrong with solidarity march.
Yes.
But we all know what people try to achieve. So they might have been advised by their lawyers, look, stay within the laws. Having a solidarity march is not against the law. You have a right to associate freely. So several really interesting. But part of what we also did here behind the scenes about this invitation is that during that End Bad Governance protest, there were certain individuals of interests that gave rise to the raid of Labour House. And so they're asking, wait a minute, if these persons are associated with Labour, and these guys are wanted, these guys have run away, they've run away from the country. So Labour needs to tell us, what do you know about these people? Because these are persons of interest. How come they've been with you all this while and you didn't think to raise any alarm about their presence or their presence or your association with them?
I mean, we don't want to raise any speculations, but there's a lot that has been said about that raider and who was being, there's a name out there, we're not going to say it, there's a name out there, there's an investigation going into a particular individual. We're going to leave the police to be able to do that. But just so people can understand how important these allegations are. We're not talking about someone trying to steal some candy somewhere. Terrorism financing.
That's a serious charge.
Treasonable felony and cybercrime. If this was anyone else, they will be stiffer in the way they handle the person. I'm talking about security operatives. If it was someone else that was being investigated for these things, or if anyone else was tied to this, they'd be stiffer. So I do agree with the police in the sense that they've made some concessions here. You said you're not going to be okay, so take your time. They said they've respected his office.
Tell you take
I
your
agree,
time,
yeah. They are doing a lot more than waiting for you.
It's serious matter. So, but the thing about all of this is by the IRT, Intelligence Response Team of the police, that invited them. So probably they might have found something, you know, so we don't know what they found. So he's expected to go there and answer questions. But look, these charges that we see here is not Tea Party. So these are things that, I mean, lawyers can tell you, you could do some time with this. These are serious issues. But let's see if are we able to hear just a little bit more about this or no? Because some Labour persons are still speaking. Let's see if we can understand the mindset.
Look at Mr. Jero. I'm seeing him. So he's still at Labour House.
Let's listen a bit. Let's see.
Yeah.
So what I know about that Patriots is Roger and Bulls. So we'll be here. They will go and come back to meet us here. We have clear conscience that the president will go and come back. We'll be here. When he doesn't come back, then we'll take the next line of action. Because now, person when no get strength, now in the defense they throw and they throw punch. We have the capacity to do what they think we can do. That's all. And so that one we're not speaking about it. Let the president go. Okay, all NAC members. In NLC, NAC members are those that NAC. NAC members, but the president has to reach us.
Okay, so there you go. The president of Nigeria Labour Congress, Joe Ajero, is behind.
He's wearing black.
Yeah.
He's in the background.
He's just somewhere
so
there.
So he's there.
So from what this means, he is getting ready to honor that invitation.
And I'm seeing a lot of lawyers behind him. I'm seeing
there you go.
I'm seeing a lot of people behind him. So yes, that crew is ready.
Labour also did say there that when he gets to the place to honor this invitation, and if he doesn't come back, then they will know or take the next step. But everybody knows. They've said it before. We'll go on strike if you don't do what we expect.
Across the country.
That's what they've always said that they will do. So it's going to be one to watch. And don't forget, we're following all of that, and we'll bring you all of that as we get them here at channels. You just need to keep it locked because trying to see, but of course, we're not likely going to be inside that interrogation or questioning room.
Oh, to be a fly on the wall. To be a fly on the wall and hear what they say.
Flies are usually...
They swat us, I know. But just to hear...
Fly catchers. So they're still fly catchers. So it's a matter that everybody is waiting to see what happens, really, because this kind of things, you never know. Well, everyone keeping fingers crossed, it doesn't escalate. But yes, we do know that those charges, as reeled out by the police, are serious charges. And you just never know. So, all right, so let's go ahead and bring you Business Morning on Sunrise today.
The voice of Labour Union there through our Sunrise Daily studio. And I know that, well, later on we're going to hook up to them and see where their match takes them. And, of course, we'll follow the story with the invitation of the president, Mr. Joe Ajero, and see where that leads. As Chamberlain said, we do hope it doesn't escalate into something bigger than this. But now let's do business for just about 30 minutes, starting from the global space as usual. We'll tell you that oil prices held mostly steady on Thursday as a smaller than expected draw in U.S. crude inventories and continued worries over China demand countered supply disruptions out of Libya. A lot going on in Libya when it comes to the oil space. Now, let's put our eyes on the number, almost unchanged. 1 cent is what we see for Brent, $78.64 a barrel, 0.01% in the red. WTI is on the flip side, but almost unchanged, also 0.1%, $74.60 a barrel. Now, both contracts lost over 1% on Wednesday after data showed that U.S. crude inventories dropped by 840,000 barrels to 425.2 million barrels. That was last week. That's less than expectations. The draw of about 2.3 million barrels. Losses were limited, however, by worries over disruption of the supplies in Libya. Libya is a member of OPEC, and they are the major contributor to the oil production. A number of oil fields in Libya have halted production, and that's amidst the fight for control of the country's central bank, with one consulting firm estimating output disruption to about 900,000 and 1 million for several weeks. In July, Libya produced about 1.18 million. So that's the number that is at risk when it comes to the supply of crude. Now, also in Libya, the premier suspended the head of the state fuel distribution company after a severe shortage. This week, we've been having such shortage and queues at the filling stations for weeks now. Nobody has been fired. In Libya, it just happened for a couple of days, and somebody has been fired. And that's a string, it brings back a string of firings and probes targeting oil officials. The Prime Minister, Abdulhamid Deba, prohibited Brega Oil Marketing and Chairman Belhim from working while an investigation is going on right there. We hope and wish that we could hear such statements from Nigeria. Perhaps we'll have less disruptions in our oil supply. Now we do Naira now and see how the Naira fared at the close of trade yesterday. Unfortunately, we've lost that 1,500 we've been hovering around for a couple of weeks now. Yesterday, the Naira dropped in NAFEM to 1,606 Naira 56 kobo, opened at 1,594 Naira 27 kobo, losing 0.77%. I think that's about 12 Naira 29 kobo. 12 Naira 29 kobo, the Naira dropped yesterday. NAFEX, there was also a drop, not as much as NAFEM, to close at 1,607 Naira. So we know even the day before in the parallel market, we had seen Naira depreciate to 1,600. But so now the official market has caught up with that at 1,600. Still around money and the Naira, the Central Bank of Nigeria plans to reissue 2.2 trillion Naira in treasury bills during the fourth quarter of 2024, as outlined in the new 2024 issue calendar. The reissuance is part of government's ongoing efforts to manage liquidity, support the financial market, and maintain economic stability. The calendar includes details on auction and settlement date. The total reissuance for the quarter includes 158.8 billion Naira in 91-day bills, 109.6 billion Naira in 182-day bills, and 1.9 trillion Naira in 364-day bills. So there you have it. Perhaps you're interested in investing in the government, in the treasury bills. You could launch onto any of those securities. Now, the Nigerian Communications Commission, the NCC, has set September 14, 2024 as the final deadline for completion of the SIM-NIN linkage exercise. According to the telecoms regulator, over 153 million SIMs have been linked to the national identification number, achieving a 96% compliance rate, up from 69.7. That was the status in January 2024. Meanwhile, 66.01 million lines are now at risk of disconnection if not linked before the deadline, with 219 million active lines across major networks. The NCC says it is aiming for 100% NIN SIM linkage by the deadline, and lines not linked by September 14 will be blocked. So if you're one of those not linked, or your SIM card is one of those not linked, please do it now so you don't get your line blocked. A break now. When we come back, we'll head first to the commodities market and see what's happening there. Just stay with us. Welcome back to Watching Business Morning on Sunrise Daily. We head to the commodity space now with Teva. Teva is an analyst with Financial Derivative Company. Joins us for the commodities conversation. Hi, Teva. Good morning. So we'll look at the Naira. We've seen the Naira yesterday dropped 0.77%. So now we're not hovering around 1,006. We have actually hit 1,006 and gone below that. What can we say is a driver for this latest drop?
Good morning, Annie. Thank you so much. Yeah, the Naira depreciated slightly. And what have we observed in the forex market? We have observed that there have been increase in certain activities. For example, you know that we are in the summer holidays, so most people are going for summer holidays. And next month is month for schools. Schools are resuming. So, we have seen increase in flights due to summer holidays. And if you remember, the government recently announced duty waiver on certain commodities. So there have been increase in demand for the dollar. So for those that want to travel on summer holidays and people preparing for school resumptions next week, and then we've seen that, for example, United Airlines have increased its trips from 3 times a week to 7 times a week. So there have been serious increase in the demand for dollar, and the supply is not readily available. So the increase in demand has pushed the Naira to depreciate. But don't forget that it could have been worse if certain efforts were not done by the monetary authorities in Nigeria. That's the Central Bank of Nigeria. If you remember, around 6th of August, the retail dot option was conducted, and about 26 banks subscribed. In fact, 32 banks applied, but 6 were disqualified. A total of 1.18 billion was up for grabs. But at the end of the day, we had about over $800 million dollars. So what we're seeing is basically demand in the forex markets being very high. That's why the Naira keeps depreciating.
Yeah, but I hope this is not affecting commodities prices, at least not now, because we saw a reduction in price of some, especially perishable commodities, because it's harvest season. Has that changed? Has the status changed?
Yeah, what we see in the commodity markets, of course, the depreciation of the Naira will increase the cost of foreign imported goods. So what we observed is that there have been a shift from the demand for foreign commodities to local commodities, especially perishable commodities. Now, the harvest season also helps in bringing down the price of these commodities. So as we go forward, we enter into the dry harvest season, then we'll see these commodities go down further.
Kumeka, thank you so much for your time this morning.
Thank you so much for having me.
Let's take another break. We'll come back and talk about small businesses and their financing. Here on Business Morning on Sunrise Daily. Welcome back. Still watching Business Morning on Sunrise Daily, right here on Channels Television. Let's do a little bit of funding issues, but this time we're not looking at it from the small businesses. Every time we talk about the small businesses, now let's talk about those banks, that are supposed to fund the small businesses. How are they coping at this time? That's the conversation we're going to have now, and we're going to have it with the Managing Director, Chief Executive Officer of UCEE Microfinance Bank, Ms. Esther Adeola Balogun. She'll be coming to tell us the perspective of the banks. So every time we talk about small businesses, and we do know that interest rate now, well, is it about 30%? Real interest rate, that is. So how are they coping? How are they, who are they giving the funds to? Can they afford to give the funds? And guess what? Even at a time like this, microfinance banks are still coming on board. I'm sure they have their own strategies. Let's have Ms. Esther Adeola Balogun join us now. Ms. Esther, good morning and thank you for your time.
Good morning, Ini.
So I know that your microfinance bank is a new one.
Yeah.
And one would have thought that the environment is so scary. Nobody would want to go into that environment at this time because microfinance banks are supposed to be funding small businesses.
Absolutely.
Small businesses, even the big businesses are getting hit.
Yeah.
So I don't know if the small businesses are surviving.
Yeah.
So you must know something that some other people do not know. But looking at the headwinds now, how is the operations of microfinance banks at this time?
All right, thank you very much, Ini. For microfinance banks at this time, just like you, to allude to your statement, it's a bit challenging because the businesses that we fund, the MSMEs, are also challenged because of the headwinds, high interest rates, unavailable funding, because of the cost of funds for microfinance banks. And, for microfinance banks today, the major challenge would be the cost of funds too, because they either fund, MSMEs, either via borrowed funds too, or customers, liability, shareholders' funds and all that. And we also know that they pay a price for those funds. And unfortunately, they would not have any choice than to pass the cost even to the customer. And so for microfinance banks at this time, I'd like to say, specifically for us in using microfinance bank, what we have decided to do is just to, have a robust risk management framework that would also help us mitigate against the risk that comes with non-performing loans, for example, because at this time you'd also realize that the rate at which the rate of non-performing loans has also gone high. Customers, that's the MSMEs, are also finding it a bit challenging to pay back their loans. Part of also, the strategies that I think that I also know that we have also put in place, and I know that most microfinance are also financial advisory even for this MSME. So you're here telling the MSME what businesses in the economy or what sector of the economy should they focus on. Today, you're looking at, a lot of people today would rather fund consumer goods than, lifestyle today. So you're looking at an MSME who is focused on lifestyle, and you're saying, why don't you channel more of this funding into this part of the business? And that's part of the financial advisory that I think microfinance banks, people like us, have also deployed. And part of it is we also have a very good cybersecurity framework. And I know that what we are also doing in that regard is because a lot of us today, especially for UC, what we are trying to drive is the digital and the traditional. We are saying, okay, we want to use the tech and touch approach. And
so before you go to the digital, I'm interested in something you said, which is microfinance banks now going beyond their scope to give financial advisory and all of that. And I'm thinking in my head, isn't that extra cost for the microfinance bank? Because you need to get an expert, who can actually do that, maybe create a unit, even if it's just a desk.
Yes.
That's an extra expenses for you. Yes. How do you put that into your books so it doesn't eat off your profits that is so slim already?
All right, thank you very much. So part of it is microfinance banks, and what we have also done is to create like a forum for MSMEs. And because some of us have been in the industry, and from research, from interaction with most of these MSMEs, you'd also look out for, thought out leaders in the industry that that would also engage this MSME. So when you have this forum, you have people in that forum who are so experienced, and the costs may not be as significant as you think it should be in that regard. Because we also deal with people at the bottom of the pyramid, you also do not want to charge them so much, for part of this advice. And don't forget, the framework of microfinance banking, Ab Initio, has financial advisory as part of the framework that we are so supposed to, give to these customers. So it is not just savings and loans. So financial advisory, and I think at this time, what we are doing at this time is, okay, so we do a little bit of financial advisory to also educate the customers before you go out to lend to the customers and to, ask the customers to engage in the financial solutions that you have for them.
So you were talking about the digital space now, but that's... competition is stiff there. Yeah. I mean, people have become so lazy. You want to do everything on your phone and all of that. So it's obviously a stiff competition when it comes to the digital space. You have the digital banks who are making it easy and, creating all kinds of incentive. So that's more work for microfinance banks.
Okay, so I'd like to also state that, CBN has come out categorically to say that for every you are either having a microfinance bank license or you have a microfinance bank license. So if you want to drive your business, saying, I want to use digital to drive the microfinance, it doesn't make you a digital microfinance bank. And to allude to your statement, today in Nigeria today, you have an average Nigerian wants to do business with ease. Wants to go out of, doesn't want to go out of his way to do business with you. I want to sit in the comfort of my home, in the comfort of my business place to do business. And so everybody, the space is big, so everybody would have to engage. And I also like to say that we also do partnerships, with digital, and we have digital partnerships with digital innovators. And so for microfinance banks today, because of the costs of technology, so you partner with a digital company or with a digital innovative organization that can also help drive these businesses. And before you know it, the cost is shared between us and the partner. And everybody's happy. It's a win-win situation for all of us.
I hear shared risks. I think that's the name of the game.
Yes, we share the risk, we share the profits, and the income that comes along with it.
But you can't share the bad debts.
Okay. All right. So because the microfinance banks are let me say, professionals around the lending space. So they take more of the risk when it comes to the bad debts. And that was why I mentioned earlier that for microfinance banks today, every microfinance bank, just like you see, must have a robust risk assessment criteria, risk management framework that would also help you drive that process. Now, the partner has his own technology he wants to sell to you. So you sit back as a microfinance bank, and that's what we do. We sit back as a microfinance bank to develop the risk assessment criteria to say, okay, so this is the risk management framework we want to use in driving this. All we just need from the partner is just the technology to do that.
So, I mean, you seem to have calculated all of that.
Oh, absolutely.
Into it at a time like this.
Calculated it, and it goes along with the cost of funding that we share.
I hope it's not like putting you on the spot. But the issue of charges with banks, not just the microfinance banks, it's building up. It's a conversation that is building up. And I think people are just tired of, talking about it. But, how do I know when I'm being cheated? So sometimes you just get an alert and they tell you you've been charged this for VAT, you've been charged this for maintenance, so many charges. And I know that the microfinance bank also does that. So help us to understand how consumers or customers can protect their rights or know their rights to start with.
All right, I would also mention that I think with the microfinance bank, because we deal with a lot of people at the bottom of the pyramid, there's a bit of openness. Let me not say a bit of, you don't have a choice as a microfinance bank than to be open and transparent with your customers. Today, for every transaction we do, there's a contractual agreement between you and the customer. And I would also advise customers read those terms and conditions. All the terms and conditions, whatever charges any bank would charge you, must be clearly stated in the terms and conditions, following the following the guidelines of the Central Bank of Nigeria. So for us in the microfinance bank space, and I would say categorically for us in UC, the terms and conditions are clearly stated. There's transparency, there's integrity. And so if we're charging you what you do not find in the offer of agreement, then you come up and discuss it. And that's why you have the FCPC that are coming out to say, no, we want to protect customers from unwarranted, yes, from being exploited. And I think that's where the customer has a solace today to say, okay, so if a bank charges me, then I have a place to run to. But I can tell you categorically, for us, we are very
everybody says that about their company.
We are
Everybody says that about
transparent, and you just walk around and check microfinance banks today. You see that you have it, because especially when you have your products online, just like we do in UC, you have your products on the digital space. All the charges are spelled out and are properly explained in that space. So
no hidden prints.
No hidden prints. No hidden prints, I can assure you. No hidden prints.
All right, so I think as parting words, for me, one interesting thing is, the advisory part, especially for small businesses, and how you help them to focus on what's more important at this time. Perhaps, what are some of those safe sectors that small businesses could look at this time, looking at our reality in Nigeria?
All right, so I'd like to say that for small businesses today, like I mentioned earlier, consumer goods, fast-moving consumer goods. Today, as in, you would rather feed your stomach than think of, okay, so what am I going to wear? That's what everybody, and if you look at the statistics today, food inflation has gone up. And so you see a lot of people spending so much money on food. So that's one of the sector. And another sector that I think is also thriving today is education. Everybody wants to be educated. Everybody wants to go to school. And those are some of the sectors that we're looking at as the microfinance bank to also fund. And lastly, I also like to mention that. Sectors that you put in your money, you put in your business, and you get back your returns like immediately. That's another place where businesses should also be focusing on today.
I thought you mentioned energy. Yes, that's a major one.
Oh yeah, that's another renewable energy. Now the cost of energy today has gone up, and so businesses today would look for alternative source of energy, and renewable energy is also another place where we need to also focus on today.
All right, thank you so much. I'm sure small businesses are listening, and one or two people say, oh, I didn't think of that. Perhaps I can get a small loan and get my money out. But thank you so much, Managing Director, Chief Executive Officer of UC. I used to call it UCEE, but you say it's UC. UC Microfinance Bank. And for having the guts to get into the space at this not so friendly time, Ms. Esther Adeola Balogun.
Thank you very much, for having me.
Great, Bye-bye. All right, now let's do a bit of the market numbers. We just have a couple of minutes to do that. Yesterday, the stock exchange in Nigeria went back to the red zone. Unfortunately, there you have it. 176 billion naira went off the market cap. But we're still at 55 trillion naira, so let's find comfort in that. And also tell ourselves that whenever there is gain, there will also be profit taking. So 96,510.13 is what the all-share index closed at after losing 0.32%. We look at the sectors, we see banking up right there. Zenith Bank is still doing so well around that. Consumer goods also up. Only industrial goods dropped just slightly. Their insurance almost 2% up. This is slowly climbing on us, these insurance stocks. Oil and gas, O&O, as you know, they've been doing. I think Japan Gold was lost in the list of gainers yesterday, but O&O is still consistent. It seems like a very big deal and a good one that they did, buying off that Ajip Nigeria. So that has been placing them in the green space since that was concluded. Top trades, once again, the insurance guys, Universal Insurance and Prestige. Both of them, that's why we saw the counter up 1.8+%. Japan Gold for oil and gas also led that, going along with O&O. So, interesting numbers. We'll see if we could have the green color back by intraday today. Anita will be here to give us that, but you'll be doing it with me. I'll be back here at 1 p.m. Business Incorporated. You don't want to miss it. We have some stories for you. Let's head back to the Sunrise Daily Studio.
It's drama.
Hey, but they are testing the ground.
MQ funded the... Well, right now we are coming here to discuss the Constitution Don't forget that the Patriots, led by Chief Anyoku, met with the president not too long ago and made that call for a new constitution for the country. And it's an ongoing conversation. It's something that so many people have been talking about for quite a while. You would recall it's been a growing call for the adoption of a new constitution, which many people believe will reflect widespread concerns about the current constitution, the 1999 constitution, which has had at least 5 alterations. And many Nigerians view it as flawed and inadequate for addressing the country's complex socio-political and socio-economic challenges, and quite a number of things. The basis of which is the fact that it was a constitution from military origins, which doesn't totally take into considerations all of the all of the concerns that Nigeria as a country has to deal with. This morning in the studio we have Fafa Dan Princewill with us. He is a member of the advocacy committee of the Patriots who have been calling for that new constitution. He's right here with us. Thank you for joining us this morning.
Thank you very much for having me.
Now, as we said, this call for a new constitution has been on for so long. Perhaps there is a need to understand why. Here is the reason for the question. Many people believe that it's not a problem of the Constitution, but the operators of the Constitution. The current Constitution that we have, imperfect as it is being obeyed in breach. So what will be different if we had a new Constitution?
I think it's actually one of the misunderstandings about the role or the meaning of a constitution in it. A lot of Nigerians believe that you can separate operators from the constitution. I think that is a misunderstanding. The operators reflect the constitution. It is the constitution that produces the operators. In the First Republic, we had a different constitution. So it produced different types of people to be the operators. We had regional system, for example. In fact, in the North, their political party was the Northern People's Congress. Southerners were not admitted because they were not looking for numbers of that. They wanted the seats, northern seats, because that's the constitution, what the constitution said. So if they didn't need to go to other places to rig election, because number of seats was what determined who would have political power. In the US, for example, it's electoral college, which means it is not the popular vote. You want to win the number of states, that is the electoral votes of the states. And some of the states share their electoral votes to the contestants in a proportion in which they performed in the state. Some give winner take all. That is, if you win Texas, they give you all their electoral votes. So the rules matter. The operatives are reflections of the Constitution. They are not separate things. You cannot have bad operators and say you have a good Constitution. You cannot have a good Constitution and have bad operators. It's not possible. It is the way the Constitution says people should emerge to be operators that determines what the operators look like.
So it is not a problem of the, it's more of the qualification of, or how the quality of people that the law permits to get into the system. That's what you're saying.
That is one aspect,
okay,
but only one small aspect. See, the Nigerian Constitution has rules. It has the established INEC. It established the role of the judiciary. It established political parties. You cannot run for election effectively in Nigeria except you join a political party. That alone is a limitation to a lot of people who might want to contest. Okay? You cannot contest election in Nigeria the way it is set up without having money. because the Constitution makes rules that either you have the money or somebody who has the money presents you. So all those factors commercialize the process and the products. So for everyone you see who is an operative in the system, either the person has money or somebody who has money has supported him. That's why the godfatherism is an issue. If, like in the UK, is a small constituency to go to parliament, is not heavily monetized. Okay? So each system is the constitution that determines the players.
How is the 1999 constitution different from the 1963 and the 1979 constitution? Here is why I'm asking the question.
Very good question.
Because in the First Republic, in fact, as far back as, as recent as maybe about 5 or 10 years ago, someone was showing me the membership card of her father.
Yes.
That I'm a financial member of this political party. That's for the First Republic. Even in the Second Republic, someone showed the membership card for the UPN.
Yes.
That I'm a financial member of this political party, so no one can roughshod me. But we didn't have the political godfathers of those days because everyone who was a card-carrying member was a financial member.
Yes.
But that's not a product of a constitution, is it?
It is. You see, in the First Republic, you finance, the political parties were not financed. They were not given money by anybody. So the political party was financed by its membership. Today, the reason why you have many 38 or whatever number of political parties is that government funds you according to some rule or the other.
Is there a constitutional provision for that?
There is a constitutional gap. You see, sometimes with the way the law works, it's either there is a law that says you should do this, or there is the absence of a law that allows you to use your discretion to do it. There are two things. You see, if you say, as it was the case in the First Republic, that you cannot fund a political party with money from X, Y, Z, this, it means you cannot do it. You understand what I mean? But you are also allowed to form the party, to be the chairman, to be anything you want to be. You can be presidential candidate. You can also be chairman of the party in the First Republic. But you look for the money that you are going to. So if people don't believe in you, they are not going to put their hard-earned cash into, which meant that the political parties were very different in nature from the 1979 Constitution political parties. And both 63 and 79, the political parties were very different from the current political parties we have. The current political parties we have are actually not political parties. Everybody has said it. People have said it's a vote catching machine or whatever things. Because the chairman can be there, even when 90% of the party doesn't want him to be there. The chairman, you can be a chairman of a political party in Nigeria without having once been elected to so serve. We have all sorts of things going on, and it reflects the way things happen now.
Now, still on that comparison, if you were to select, if you had the authority to choose either of those two constitutions, the 63 Constitution or the 79 Constitution, what distinguishes them from the current one that we have, and which one of them would you say, why don't we try this again?
No. See, I don't think you should pick one constitution, over the other as such, because there are aspects that were good in 63. Some aspects were bad. There were aspects that were good in 79. Some aspects were bad. You see, what it is that the 1999 Constitution reflects our experiences in that 63 and 79. So it solves some problems, and it complicated some others. It is not, in some aspects, it's an improvement. In some aspects, it's horrible. So what people are complaining about is that those horrible aspects were the aspects that people without the mandate of a broad discussion or support, we are able to smuggle into the Constitution. That's the issue. See, if the current Constitution was working, nobody would bother about it. So the issue is not that the military brought it. Many people make that mistake. The issue is not that it matters. The issue is not that everyone didn't participate in doing that. It matters, but that's really not the issue. The main issue is that it is not working. There's no doubt about that. And if it is not working, you should look at it. Constitution matters. Any time you have any problem, any country, you must look at your country. America is looking at its constitution again because they think, some people think they've deviated from the spirit of it because special interests have brought single issues to overbear on the system.
That constitution is more than 200 years old.
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Now, the current constitution we're using now is the one that has lasted any democratic experience the longest.
Yes.
The 63 constitution lasted maybe about 3 years.
Yes.
79 constitution, maybe about 3-4 years.
Yes.
The 1990 constitution, I think that one lasted just for the length of the Third Republic.
Yeah.
Which was also about, it didn't really fully take off.
Yeah.
But this 1999, imperfect 1999 constitution that we have has lasted us 25 years.
Yes.
What do you think is responsible for that?
Very simple answer. The current constitution, virtually, how would I put it? Perhaps it was a reaction to the military interventions. Because when you say that the constitutions failed, they all failed by military intervention. So the 1999 constitution was...
But the 1963 constitution didn't fail by military intervention.
It did. January coup.
Well, there are those who said
coup.
that the intention was not for the military to take over then. It was actually because the civilians said, no, we can't handle this, that the military
Yeah,
take over.
the coup failed, but the intervention was sufficient to pull down the system. That's what happened in January. A counter coup also then came. So it was coups that caused the truncation of those things. The reason why there is a longer period now is because the Obasanjo government, when it came in, being a former military man himself, took measures to make coups difficult to be done. First of all, himself and General T.Y. Danjuma, who was the Minister of Defense, brought rules and regulations that you can even say as virtually constitutional to remove all those who had been involved in politics. All military officers, no matter your rank, was swept out of the army. So the army lost its eyes and brains politically. So it has not been able, there are no politicians in the army anymore. Okay? So the only reason why we have that was long tenure now is because of the actions of President Obasanjo and T.Y. Danjuma to make the army not find it easy to take over government. That's the reason. Okay? And it has nothing to do with how well the system is functioning. In fact, if it was in 63 or 79, would have had 15 coups by now because the issues that used to bring coups in Nigeria before, 10 times that happen virtually all the time now. So the only reason why we don't have that is that rules and regulations, policies were brought in to make coups difficult.
But then, even in the wake of this, in the twilight of the Abdulsalami Abubakar government, the civil society activists of the day, it would seem like the pressure on the military government lasted some, 6 years? Between 1993, when the June 12 election was annulled, and 1999, when the military had to hand over.
Yes.
It would seem there was that continuous pressure
Yes.
from civil society organizations. Yes. We also understand, one of them, Ebonlu Adegborowa, spoke with us once and said, look, We were told, we were advised not to be a part of it. We were champions of the civil society of the day that pushed the military out, but we were advised not to go into politics. Now, in fact, he said on TV, right on this station, that look, it wasn't a good decision for them, because a good number of them, if they had gotten into the system, they probably would have been able to create structures that would have held us better than it did now. So in that light, how will a new constitution attract a completely different set of people into our politics? How will a new constitution curtail the corrupt tendencies of the average politician, as many people believe them to be? How will a new constitution encourage youth participation in politics?
You see, every individual looks at the various systems and the various opportunities available to them and then makes a decision. See, if you feel that the banking sector, for example, there was a time when everyone in Nigeria, every young kid wanted to be a banker. There was a time when they wanted to join the army. There was a time when it depends on what is going on. See, if the politics attracts thugs, you will have politicians who are thugs. If the politics if you think you will do well as a thug in politics, then you go there. If there is no room for you, you would refrain. If the situation presents that professionals have opportunity to join politics, they will. If you don't have money now in Nigerian politics, you think twice, except you look for. But if you have a lot of money, even when you are not interested, people will be calling you to get involved. So what the thing is that is the constitution and the atmosphere, the spirit it puts into play that determines who is attracted to politics. If there's no money to be made, a lot of people would not, who are there now, would not be attracted.
You think a new constitution will de-emphasize that?
See, the reason why we have the economic problems we have and the political issues we have is from the Constitution. The Constitution says that all monies, all production of value, of significant value from any part of Nigeria should be brought to the table in ASUU Rock. And then from ASUU Rock, they will share it to the state governors. And then the state governors will spend it in their states. That is the law we have. So all funds are collated and collected and put at the center, then disbursed. If the system, like the 63 Constitution, for example, is that from where the money is, you hold it, but you pay a percentage to the federal government, there is no money at the center that is unaccounted for. You see, right now, the most opaque company in Nigeria is NNPC. Nobody knows exactly, sometimes we hear funny things about 1 year, no remittance under the last regime, we were told. Nobody knows what goes on there. And that's where all the money seems to be. The customs, all the centers of money are put together. And then from there, given to the governors, who in turn share it down. So that system in itself is corruptive. That system enables lack of accountability. You see?
You already raised an issue by talking about a fundamental one at that, about state governors.
Yes.
There are those who believe that, look, these guys also collect money from the federal government. On the average now, every month they share, right above 1 trillion naira every month among all federal, state, and local government administrations in the state, in the country. So what do we do with that one? They get money, and people are still saying, okay, they don't get enough money. But just as you said, they share it at their own whim.
Yes.
Sometimes there are those who believe sometimes they just put it in their pockets,
yes,
and no one is asking them questions. So how will the Constitution address the corrupt tendencies of individuals, such as governors?
See, the way money flows, why it's the same Nigerians, but you don't hear the same kind of stories in the banks, for example, because the bank money is monitored. There are huge funds in the banks, but they're not there just for the taking. It's not easy to do. And even when you defraud, they immediately know that something has happened because there's accountability. See, with the state government, when the money comes in, there is no accountability.
But the money still goes through the banks.
No.
They don't get that. They don't get it with
the bank is not authorized to monitor what the governor does with it. Okay. The law does not allow see, if, for example...
How about the EFCC?
See, these are all institutions to make better a fundamentally flawed constitution. You see, the constitution is flawed. EFCC, for example, is looking after money already stolen. EFCC doesn't stop anybody from stealing. It is after you've stolen the money that they look for you. And we know that once the money is stolen, there's a limit to what EFCC can do, because you go to court, like they will tell you, and then the judiciary comes in, with its own problems. So those corrective institutions are ineffective, not necessarily because of the personnel as such. See, in Nigeria, we want to blame individuals for everything. If something goes wrong, we say it's the president, it's the governor. It's not a personal blame. It's a systemic problem. That's why we are talking about the constitution.
How will we carry on younger generation? And it's fundamental because they've been hearing it forever. The young shall grow. We are the leaders of tomorrow, but it will seem like they're not even allowed to take any position. So, and I know, everyone knows, you also would corroborate that. Most of the people who called for independence were in their 20s and 30s. Yeah. But today, those in their 20s and 30s hardly have a seat at the door, much less a seat at the table. So how do we, in this new call for a new constitution, carry the younger generation along?
See, I was 26 when I was called in to serve as a special assistant, to the Senate President in the Shagari government, okay? And I also served as special assistant to the Minister of Finance. And then later, I was an executive assistant, to Chief Umaru Diko on the re-election campaign of the president. And you can see the trajectory. I came in as a professional, as a lawyer, to be legal assistant to the Senate President on legal issues. But too soon it was clear to me that the issues were not legal as such. The Constitution was flawed. Special assistant to the Finance Minister, I could see how the economy worked. I could, Then I now worked on the executive as an executive assistant on the campaign thing. So I saw the politics, the parties, the issues of at the time. So what I'm saying is that from these perspectives that I've seen, see, the kind of discussions we had at the time are not the type they're having now. I recall, for example, the NPN was the power in government, but they were very concerned about losing elections. They were I could see it, and they knew it was a competition, okay? Today, no, that's not how people think. It's not about the elections. See, in my state, Rivers State, we've seen it played over and over again. We watched one government after the other. From Rufus George, I was old enough, and participated. Governor Dili, Amechi, Wike. The issues are systemic. They are not individuals. They are not the persons. And they are systemic because Rivers State politics is intricately tied with national politics because there are free funds in Rivers State. So the problems Rivers State has, Oyo State doesn't have it, Sokoto doesn't have it, even Lagos doesn't have it. It's a peculiar, Bayelsa doesn't have it. It's a peculiar problem.
So how is that likely to affect the issues
Constitution
between Governor Wike, former Governor Wike and Governor Fubara?
How would that...
the issue that you raised now?
No, because all those who are seriously interested in a presidential system have vested interest in the conflict. That's the problem.
So it's not ending anytime soon?
It's not every state that the president of the country would directly interfere. if governor is fighting his godson. It's because they are interested. The parties, all the parties are interested.
It sounds like
so it's a constitutional issue.
Okay, well, it's like opening another vista altogether.
It's a constitutional issue.
Yeah,
that's the point.
Certainly. Well, I think this is just an ongoing conversation, really.
Yes.
I'm still very much interested in exploring further the angle of the young people, but we're totally out of time right now. We have to thank you and expect that we'll be able to drag you in one more time.
Okay.
Thanks for this one.
Thank you very much.
Dan Prince Will, Member Advocacy Committee of the Patriots. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much
for being with us this morning.
Thank you very much.
So, well, Chamberlain and Kayla, I guess this is where we draw the curtain before the news on the hour. I'm Ayo Makinde. Do have a wonderful rest of your day.
All right, well, yes, indeed. We do thank you all for watching. We'll see you next time. I'm Chamberlain. Goodbye.
Have a great day ahead. I'm Kayla Magwa.